أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة على عبادنا الذين اصطفى خصوصا على سيد الرسول وعلى خاتم الأنبياء وعلى آله الأزكياء وأصحابه الأذكياء أما بعد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أن نقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لقد جاءكم رسول من أنفسكم عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم وبالمؤمنين رؤوف رحيم وقال الرسول الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. Oftentimes we look for in our day-to-day spiritual boosts, so where we can be comfortable with ourselves and worship Allah better. It's hard to, in our day-to-day lives, when we wake up, we go to work, and our lives slowly become monotonous, to instill spirituality in our day-to-day lives. Of course, we have our prayers five times a day, and we have our adhkar dispersed throughout the day, but we look for a larger spiritual boost that we seek through things like religious gatherings, things like Jum'ah, things like halaqas we go to every week. And we try to instill spirituality through our lives. Because, of course, we were sent in this world to do one thing, worship Allah. Though we work 9 to 5, and though we prepare our lives around working, around going to college, around going to school, and of course providing for our families, that is not why we were sent. And if anyone were to go to work and their boss were to say, you know what, we're canceling your salary, but we're still asking you to work, would you go to work? No. Because you're only working for the sake of Allah. You're working so you can get some amount of money and fend for your family. You're working so you may worship Allah through your work and so that you can fend for your family like He commanded you to. But if your boss were to say, you know what, we're going to cancel your salary, you're not going to work, or you're not going to get paid, but we still want you to work, no one would do it. But still, inshallah, we inspired to wake up every morning, we go to Fajr with needing no money. No one's offering us any money when we decide to go to Fajr. No one's giving us, $5, $10, $30 check to come to Jum'ah every week. But we do that for the sake of Allah. So we should take our time and throughout our day maximize the amount of reward we can get, because we can't spend every moment worshiping Allah. We try our best, when I wake up, pray Fajr, maybe after Fajr, instead of going right back to home, I'll do some adhkar, I'll read some Quran. We try our best to maximize. But the reality is, in a day that we're so busy with our kids, our house, our work, driving here and there, doing errands, we don't have a lot of time to dedicate solely for the sake of Allah. We may have an hour a day to pray. We may have 15 minutes here to read Quran, do some adhkar here and there, but we don't have the time to dedicate every single moment, every hour to worship Allah like He's deserved to be worshipped. So this khutbah today is about how we can maximize our time throughout our day so we can get the maximum amount of worship in for our whole lives. The reality is most of our lives we'll spend sleeping or we'll spend at work. So how can we maximize these two things? How can we maximize them to make them ibadah as well? So on the Day of Judgment, we can present that, Ya Allah, I didn't spend as much time as I should have praying, but I worked for your sake. And everything I did it for your sake. So the goal is, how can we maximize this? And how can we make this a standard for our lives? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had a very close relationship with one companion named Mu'adh bin Jabal. So we know the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was sent as a leader for all of mankind. And especially the Sahaba who he's literally sent to. Now Sahaba, some of them we know by name, we know their rank, and we know their stature. We know Abu Bakr, we know Umar, of course, the high-ranking companions. But some Sahaba we don't know as well. Very famously, a man came to the Prophet Muhammad and said, "Oh, Ya Rasulullah, give me some advice." Very general, he asked, "Give me some advice." Prophet Muhammad gave him a general advice. He said, "Do not get angry." Now, for the general companions, he would give very general advice. We don't know, in the narration it's not mentioned the companion's name, it just says Rajul. And we know this Rajul, of course, was Sahaba, and of course was someone we look up to. But in the grand scheme of the Sunnah and the grand scheme of the companions, he was someone who was generally unknown. But when the Prophet Muhammad is giving advice to a senior companion, who we know well by name and we know their rank, we should take it close and listen to that advice. So, the Prophet Muhammad was once talking to his close companion, Mu'adh bin Jabal. Mu'adh bin Jabal was someone who they say that he was the most knowledgeable of the rulings of Islam. They say he was the afqah of Sahaba. That when it came to the rulings and the criteria of Islam, he was the most knowledgeable. So we know he had a very extensive relationship with the Prophet Muhammad. Now, this is one of the 5 gatherings he had with the Prophet Muhammad. So imagine you have a close companion, a close son, a close person you were mentoring. Imagine, for example, your son has grown up in your home, and he's reached the age of 17, 18, where he needs to go off to college. And you're giving him his final advice as he's loading the bus or loading the plane to go off. Now, Mu'adh bin Jabal was going to Yemen. And we were reading, Prophet knew that he was nearing the end of his life, and he knew that this would be the last time he would see him. So this is almost his final advice he's giving him. What does he tell him? Ya Mu'adh, ittaqillah haythuma kunt. He gives him 3 advices. First advice, ittaqillah haythuma kunt. Be conscious of Allah, fear Allah wherever you may be. وَاتْبِعِ السَّيِّئَاتُ الْحَسَنَاتُ تَمْحُهَا. Follow up your sins with good deeds to erase them. وَخَالِقُ النَّاسِ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ. And when you deal with people, deal with the best character. Now we'll go slowly, we'll go through each advice and we'll go through the benefits of each. First, اتَّقِ اللَّهَ حَيْثُمَا كُنْتَ. Have consciousness of Allah. Be fearful of Allah wherever you may be. Now the verbiage here is important. It says حَيْثُمَا كُنْتَ. Not wherever, like if you're in the store or you're at home, but however you may be, in what state you find yourself. So when we wake up in the morning, the first thing we often do is, alhamdulillah, we wake up, we do Fajr, so we're honored and we're blessed that we have this morning remembrance of Allah. And that's the first thing we do. However, after that, we start to get into our day. We start preparing to work, we start eating breakfast, maybe we'll talk to our kids for a little bit before we send them to school, get them ready to school, send them off, inshallah. But he's saying here, whatever state you find yourself in, remember Allah and be fearful of Allah. Now, consciousness of Allah has 2 states. There's 2 parts of it. The first part of God consciousness is literally doing dhikr. Idhkurullah yadhkurkum. Remember Allah and He will remember you. And this is, we all know, reading Subhanallah, reading Alhamdulillah, reading Allahu Akbar, doing our adhkar every day. After prayer, of course, we have the 33. Everyone knows these adhkar. But splitting them out throughout our day. Every part of our day having some adhkar. When we're on our way to work, instead of maybe turning on the radio or looking at the news, we can take that time and read some Quran or listen to Quran and remember Allah instead. Filling up these blank gaps in our lives. If you're at work and you have 5 minutes to yourself, instead of opening your phone and scrolling on WhatsApp or scrolling on social media and spending hours of your time just wasted where you're not even conscious, spend that time and just do a little bit of dhikr, do a remembrance of Allah, just a little bit. And you'll find not only will your day be better, not only will your akhirah increase, inshallah, you get more ajr, but your day will be better as well. We ask Allah for good in the dunya and the good in the akhirah as well. So when we do dhikr, when we do adhkar, and we fill our day with it, it's not only we're getting in the akhirah more and we're getting more in the higher levels of Jannah, inshallah. That's not the only reward, rather Allah is giving us in the dunya as well. That if I want barakah in my work, if I want to become let's say I'm a salesman, and I want to beat the sales record, it's not only upon us to just work as hard as we can, but it's upon us to rely upon Allah and do dhikr and remember Allah. Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, was one of the founders of fiqh in Islam. They say about him that, we all know him and we all read his name maybe every day. We say, oh, I'm Hanafi, I'm such a this, I'm like that. But every single day he would read the whole Quran in its entirety. It's not only that he worked hard and he studied hard and he tried his best to spread the deen of Allah, but a part of it was he worked on himself and he did a lot of adhkar and he read a lot of Quran. And you can't just rely on doing a lot of work and hoping that, okay, I'll get more money if I work and I work and I work. Rather, we should do dua to Allah, we should ask Allah to increase us, and then we should increase in our ibadah as well. There were Sahaba who were very rich. Famously, Abdurrahman bin Auf, radiallahu anhu, his caravan would come to Medina, and it would start in one end of Medina and end in the other end of Medina. That's what his business trading was. And that's because, of course, he would work hard, but then he would do adhkar Allah, he would remember Allah. And the second half of taqwa, so the first half is remembering Allah. Second half is to stay to what Allah has commanded us to stay to, and stay away from what Allah has commanded us to stay away from. And this is ihsan, and this is what we are commanded to do. A person is only responsible for what? To go to what Allah told them to do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that salah is every day, 5 times a day, at a very specific time. We pray those 5 times a day. No matter how much I want it, I stay away from haram. You know how easy, it's so easy nowadays because we live in America, food is getting expensive. Fast food is always cheap. You can go to any fast food stop and you get a burger for cheap but we watch out and we say, I only eat halal and I stay away from haram. It's so easy to get rich off of haram deeds. If you go on any online YouTube video, you look up how to get rich quick, all of these verifiable methods that they say, they work for them, they're all haram. They're all haram money. So having this consciousness of, not only do I remember Allah, but when I'm commanded to do something, I do it. Allah won't see me, Allah won't find me at Fajr time except that I've prayed Fajr. Allah will not see me at night sleeping except that I've prayed Isha. And then when Allah Ta'ala commands me to stay away from something, I know in my heart, no matter how much I want it, that this thing is better than I stay away from it. And I stay away from it and I'll never do it as long as Allah is watching me. And of course Allah is always watching us. Now this is, though we try our best to stay away from what we are prohibited from, unfortunately the nature of human beings is what? We try our best and sometimes we fail. And that's the second part of the hadith. وَأَتْبِعِ السَّيِّئَاتِ الْحَسَنَاتِ تَمْحُهَا. That though we try our best and we make it our best efforts to stay away from bad deeds, and no matter what I do, I always try my best, okay, I'm going to stay away from sin, stay away from sin. Unfortunately, we find ourselves falling in sin, and that's the nature of human beings. We're created weak. It says many times in the Quran, we're created weak and we were created that our desires are something that we're drawn towards. So first we ask Allah that He makes us desire things that attains pleasure. But then, when we commit sins, what do? A lot of times we think that we have, committed too many sins that Allah won't forgive us. Rather, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us, that Allah said about Himself, that He will forgive every single sin except that you associate partners with Him. That as long as you don't limit His mercy, He will not limit His mercy. And you can sit day and night and ask Allah for forgiveness for the things that we have done, and He will never tire from you. Now imagine your son comes to you one day and he's like, Abba, I messed up, I got a D on my report card. And you know what, you're feeling, you reprimand him a little bit, but then you feel sorry for him, so you forgive him. The next week, the next year he comes, he says, I got a D on my report card. And every year go by, and he keeps telling you, I failed. I keep messing up. I keep trying to mess up. As a parent, you'll be very disappointed. Why? Because you keep instilling these good qualities in your son. You keep telling him, let's study more. Let's read as much as we can, pay attention in class. But unfortunately, he keeps failing. So as a parent, you'll be a little disappointed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not get disappointed. Rather, like He says in the Quran, He says it in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُرِيدُ أَن يَتُوبَ عَلَيْكُمْ. It is Allah's wish, it is Allah's plan, it is Allah's intention to forgive us. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He built it into us to make mistakes so that we could beg Him for forgiveness. It says in the hadith that, very famously, the story Prophet tells us that if we were, as a humanity, if we were to stop sinning, let's say in Kansas City, Missouri, everyone stops sinning, and we all become the most ideal Muslim. Allah would replace us. Allah would do away with us and replace us with what? People who sin unintentionally, of course. They try their best not to sin, but then they sin on accident. And what do? They feel bad and they cry out to Allah. And they feel the regret. And they feel sorrow and they say, Ya Allah, I made a mistake, forgive me. That we're not supposed to be like angels. If we were free of sin, the angels would come on the ground and they would shake our hands. We're not supposed to be free of sin. That's not us. Rather, we are here to forgive, to make faults. We try our best not to commit sins, but of course we will fall into it, and then beg Allah for forgiveness. And then if we wrong someone, we ask them for forgiveness as well. So if you speak ill about someone, you ask Allah for forgiveness, and you speak ill that person, you ask them for forgiveness as well. And the ulama say that a good habit, that when you commit a sin, you commit the good deeds. This is what Hadith is saying, commit something good. Let's do something good to back it up. But not only that, let's do something good in the same, they say jinns, or the same category as the sin. So let's say my problem is I speak ill about another person. And that's like, I find myself falling into it. The first thing I do is I should regret it. And I should have this deep remorse for disobeying the command of Allah. And the first thing I do is I ask Allah for forgiveness. But then, If it's a sin involving another person, I have to ask the second person for forgiveness. Let's say my good friend of mine, for some reason, I didn't mean to, but I accidentally said something bad about him in front of other people. The first thing I do is I ask for repentance and I feel regret, and then I go to that person and I seek forgiveness. The next thing is, and this is what the ulama say, they say, follow up that sin with something good to erase it and make that thing be in the same category. Meaning, if I speak bad, speak good. Maybe say something nice about that person. Say, you know what, such and such person is beautiful character. Such and such person always does me right. If you look at something haram, you look at something you're not supposed to be looking at, look at something good to balance it out. You know what, let's say you caught one in, you're looking at something that you know is haram, and instead of just, ignoring it, flipping away, this is what happens on social media, right? You're just scrolling, you see something haram, you're on WhatsApp, you just scrolling. You don't need to, but it's just there. The first thing you do is you seek repentance from Allah and have this regret in your heart. The second thing you should do is remove yourself from the scenario. Remove yourself off this app. Remove yourself from the place that you're seeing the haram, and instead look at something good. If you saw something haram, maybe read Quran instead, and that'll balance it out, inshallah. And that'll remove that sin, and erase it as if it never happened. That you take this sin, and it's not like I made a sin and then I'm forgiven. Because of course, in the heart of that, if it's a person, I made a sin and I ask for forgiveness, in their heart they will always know that I did them wrong. But to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is as if I never committed that sin to begin with. It is as if I never did anything wrong. That's how Allah's mercy is. So if I spoke something wrong, speak something good. If I saw something wrong, look at something good. And if I heard something wrong, we all know there are certain things we shouldn't hear. Regardless of any discussion of halal or haram, whatever, at the end of the day, there are certain things that no human being should hear. Some things that are vulgar, crass, crude, vile. We know we shouldn't hear these things. But if we happen to listen to them, let's remove ourselves from that situation. Let's take ourselves out of wherever we heard the haram, and instead listen to Quran and listen to lectures that will benefit us spiritually. And the final advice we're giving, and when you deal with people, have the best, utmost, and highest character. Now, what does this look like? The basic borderline bottom level, we should all aspire to be better than this, of course. But the bare minimum, المسلم من سلم المسلمون من لسانه ويده. The true believer, the person who has attained faith, is the person who other Muslims are safe from his tongue and his hands. Meaning they're free from his verbal abuse, they're free from his illicit talking, they're free from his backbiting. And they are also free from his hands, meaning physical abuse. And this is the borderline. We don't harm people. That should be the basic level, that we don't harm people wherever we go. We shouldn't walk in a room and people get disappointed. You know what? Brother Junaid's here. Oh man, he's just going to make fun of us or he's going to hit us. And it's usually the people we are worst with is our family. That we speak the most ill about our family. We speak the worst about our family. We talk to them in their face, behind their back, and we think it's okay because, he's just my dad, or he's just my son, or it's my brother, it's my cousin, it's my sister. And we think it's okay. These people, we harm the most, but they're the closest to us. What does that say about us? That those who we love the most, we harm the most. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "Khayrukum khayrukum li ahli." The best of you all, the best of humanity, are those who are the best of their family. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was the best of his family. And we should follow that example, that when we're close to someone, they shouldn't be scared of us. Oftentimes they say, don't meet your heroes. Why? Because the closer you get to someone, the more you get to know them, the worse a person they become. We should be people who the closer we get with each other, the more we love each other more. I shouldn't be scared to get to know someone better out of fear that they may harm me. Rather, we should go above that and have great character. And some of the aspects of great character are that we love for our brother what we love for ourselves. That I would love to be respected. I would love to be treated kind. I would love for us to be, to be served and to be helped. So that's how I treat people. The people who call for respect are usually the people who don't deserve it. Usually you meet people who they almost tell you to respect them. These people are usually the ones who don't deserve it. You'll never find a hadith where the Prophet Muhammad says about himself, respect me. You'll never find that. Rather what? The people would naturally respect them. Or in some cases, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about the Prophet Muhammad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed ayat talking about how we should respect them. Usually if a person has a character worth respecting, people will know. I don't have to tell you, if you're a respectable person, you won't have to be told, you don't have to tell people, hey, respect me. People will naturally respect you. So you shouldn't start asking people for respect. Rather, respect people and act in a dignified way, and naturally people will respect you. Treat others as you wish you were treated. And this respecting people is the utmost form of da'wah. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was someone of the best character. Of course, this is talked about in the Quran. فَبِمَا رَحْمَةُ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضَّ مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. That it is from the mercy of Allah that you have great character, and you're respectful and you're kind, you're merciful towards the people. And this is from the da'wah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. That if he were someone who were crass and crude and ill-mouthed and bad-spoken and spoke ill of people and hurt each other, everyone would have left him and no one would have joined him. This is da'wah. That when we go somewhere, if we're kind to not only the other people, but if a Muslim is in public, rude to his son, mean to his son, yelling at his family, no one will want to be Muslim. Everyone would say, oh, Muslims, those are the people who yell at people. That if we go to stores and we start yelling at the cashiers and we don't tip well and we start fighting with people, they're going to say, oh, the Muslim people, they just argue and fight and yell. We should be people who our character is a natural invite to Islam. That before we say, Qala Allah, Qala Rasul, people say, you know what? I love Junaid, I love Muhammad, I love so-and-so brother, I love so-and-so sister. Why? Just because of their character. That I love it when Sister Fatima comes because she has the best character. And I love it when Brother Muhammad comes because he's nice to everybody. So in conclusion, just the three advices we're given. اتق الله حيثما كنت. Be conscious of Allah wherever you are. And this is two forms, both verbally and mentally saying the remembrance of Allah, and second, to just remember Allah constantly. And when you commit a sin, unfortunately we try our best to not commit sins. But unfortunately, when you fall into a sin, you follow that sin up with repentance, and then follow that sin up with a good deed to erase it. It is as if you've never done it. And when you deal with people, have the best character. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم واستغفروه. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. لقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف شر ما قضيت إنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يضل من هديت ولا يذل من واليت سبحان ربنا وارضى عليك وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. إن الله يأمركم بالعدل وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم واذكروه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما يفعلون وأقيموا الصلاة.